I was browsing YouTube as I do 20 hours a day when I came across a video by Annie Austin, the most boring place in Tears of the Kingdom. I watched it, loved it, but this got me thinking. Out of the entire world of SpongeBob SquarePants, what is the most boring place? Now, since SpongeBob is supposed to take place on the planet Earth, we could easily say Sweden, Pennsylvania, which has a population of less than 1,000. But to make this video more interesting, let's stick to the underwater stuff. In Austin's video, he analyzes some spots and gets the benefit of it being a game world, something the player chooses to explore and see at their own angle. We do not get that in SpongeBob, at least the show, because it's a show. We have to make do with the episodes we are given. I mean, I could just cover the SpongeBob SquarePants video games, but then this entire video would just be Plankton's robotic revenge. It's like the dish soap of SpongeBob games. If you are like me and have a freakish knowledge of the Bikini Bottom landscape, your first guess is probably the outskirts of the town. I mean, my first thought of a boring SpongeBob location is the entire plains, I guess, of pizza delivery. There's no life for the most part, and all we have is coral and rarely driven roads. But to be fair, it does also have the iconic rock. The main problem with doing the outskirts of the town is that it all kinda looks the same. There are obvious differences in the super out there locations versus more local bits. Take the road that Squidward bikes on in the original Jellyfishing, or the one that leads to Conch Street. Another point could be the small area where Doodlebob is believed to be killed, spoilers, in Frankendoodle. We got, a rock, not much until the sponge-shaped hole gets made, but there are variations at times. Let's look at the first movie. We have plenty of natural and new types of biomes. We start with the usual white sand and coral, but transition once we cross the county line. We still keep the road, with markings on it. Remember this, we'll come to it later, but as we push on, the environment gets more hostile. The coral gets sharper, skeleton piles are everywhere, and a deep fog eventually sets in. So there are possible cool locations, it just seems Bikini Bottom is quite small. I mean, I guess the outskirts in Life of Crime have a cool pattern in the sand, but it's not really enough to differentiate it or give us one specifically boring location. If you want to choose just uninteresting visuals, then the lagoon and clams is an easy pick. Water, water, and more water. Where's the pizzazz, the sparkle? I mean, we have the feral clam, but it's always under the water. It's just the lagoon and a smelly boat. Come to think of it, we haven't had many oceans in the show. And just for the cartoon logic, yeah, I know they're underwater, that's not the point. But these oceans are empty. In Hide and Then What Happens, we get shown a map of Bikini Bottom, and I'm making a guess that the clam fishing trip is probably north of Goo Lagoon. But then, what's this island off to the south? Is it unclaimed? Is the map an unreliable narrator? And you know what? SpongeBob's grandma has always had such a weird house. The inside is cool, but the exterior feels wrong. Where's the road, the neighbors, the town? She has a boat that she drives, so it obviously can't be far from civilization, but who would want to build a house so far away from everything? It even seems a bit pressed for space due to all that coral nearby. Alright, hi, I'm going off script. I get it, SpongeBob's grandma. I get it. I too would like to live away from everyone. Building interiors are actually the toughest category to make. SpongeBob as a show has a fantastic world design, which includes the buildings. Everyone knows what the generic house in Bikini Bottom looks like, but I bet you don't recall the basement of the Krusty Krab. Or maybe not a basement, but whatever houses the pipe system for the restaurant in Bucket Sweet Bucket. Brick and wood floors, a very rusty, a very rustic and generic look, perfect for what we want. Now that I think about it, I'd call Bucket Sweet Bucket the most boring feeling episode of the show. Not boring as in unentertaining, maybe I'm just going crazy, but Bucket Sweet Bucket has such a boring simpleness to it that other episodes don't capture. I don't know why I like it so much, it just feels small in scale. That's all I have for building interiors. They all have such standout designs that I can't really pick anything else. What, you're gonna tell me Shady Shoals is boring? From a technical or objective standpoint, SB129 should have the most boring location of the entire series. You probably know what I'm talking about. The White Void, where Squidward is alone, 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 alone. Can nothing be boring? Like, obviously there's nothing in here, at least before the ominous voices chime in, which should be boring, but literally nothing has more of a creepy kind of vibe to it. Like if I dropped you off in a business lobby versus an endless zone of nothing, I bet you $5 you'll say the lobby is way more boring. This applies to other empty places. One of my favorites is the desolate dunes that Gary gets lost in during Have You Seen This Snail? Besides the oddly flat sky flowers, it's barren. I'm so used to seeing a hint or splash of purple coral, but it's just nothing. It's even more striking because the next scene Gary finds a bustling suburb of the town, which, by the way, I love how more urban it is. Alleyways, giant lights, sidewalks, and more. Now that I think about it, Bikini Bottom has gotta be a boat-driven city, right? Like, do you even remember any sidewalks there? Their bus stops are on sand, the Krusty Krab is all sand. Okay, that's not what I meant. Even the main downtown area doesn't have any walkways. Do they have crosswalks? The Season 2 episode Wormy shows us Bikini Bottom has traffic intersections, but I don't see any markings on the ground. What if I need to cross? Do I just become a filthy jaywalker? And where are you even supposed to park your boats? Downtown has no parking spots, unless we want to count the sides of the street, like with the fire hydrant in Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm. Obviously, there are dedicated parking spaces here and there, but what do I do if I can't afford a boat? You want me to bike on the same lane as a boat? Need I remind you, Bikini Bottom's roads are one lane, meaning you are stuck behind a car and can only pass if it is empty, I assume. They don't have any road markings at all, not even at the dedicated place to learn how to drive a boat. And for my last point, you would assume a place called the End of the World would qualify, but just like the SB-129 Void, no. We have a gift shop which has a few patrons, notably my boy Patrick Notstar, but it seems to have a constant sandstorm outside. But what's past this point? Is it just the open ocean floor for hundreds of miles until a new town? It kind of gives me the vibe of an out-of-bounds border in a game. Maybe like Subnautica. Just minus the thalassophobia. Jellyfish Fields. No, Jellyfish Fields is not boring. Shut up. And while I'm at it, none of the various forests in the series count either. Don't you find it weird we have so many types? Like, we have the biggest one, that being the kelp forest, but we also get the more pronounced forest in Bummer Vacation that gets reused for To Save a Squirrel and some later episodes. I think for me, the various types of forests stand out because of how dense they are. Everywhere in Bikini Bottom is open, with wide sightlines. Buildings are spaced apart from each other and nothing is jammed close, except for nature, where the trees or kelp close in and suffocate you. Sometimes not even being able to see the sun or sky. So we've explored what generally defines a boring locale in Bikini Bottom. What's my number one pick for the most boring place? I am going to choose an area that only appeared once in an already boring episode that I have to physically hold back my tongue from insulting. The prison island from The Clash of Triton. Now, on first glance, this shouldn't be boring. I can't recall any other time we see a real, genuine floating island in the show, but there's the problem. That's all this place has. The scenery looks like it'll be cool, but it's just a lot of basic greens and a few trees. Was this place lifted from the ocean floor? Is it being held up by Neptune's magic? There's a Bikini Bottom bus that manages to go here, so people have charted this island already. I think that's what makes it so boring to me. It could have such a cool premise or mystery, and it's just nothing. We've seen volcanoes, mountains, cliff drops, and more, and they're all cool. A floating island, despite being a floating island, does nothing. But you know, maybe that's the point. Maybe Neptune placed his son on such a boring island to torture him, to drive him insane. That's all I got for you. I've been B-Tan. Thanks for watching.